Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ozbourne Foreman, and today I'm going to be doing a Q&A. I've been very busy as of late and haven't had the time to create a proper video with dedicated research, and therefore I don't want to be uploading low quality content, but at the same time I don't obviously not want to be uploading content at all, as the YouTube algorithm certainly favors that. So this time around, what I decided to do in the aim of transparency, which I think is very key in the channel, is that I said, right, I put up a poll on my YouTube and I said, look, ask me a question, anything is really fair game. What questions would you ask to sort of understand my background and perhaps my approach toward investing? And that was pretty much the primary goal behind it. So today I actually have 6 questions, all of each I think are individually good questions and I think could offer some insight onto my own strategy, my lifestyle, and perhaps the way I invest or even deal with life. I think some of these are very deep and thought-provoking, and I hope you may find some use out of it, and hopefully we can promote a discussion from it as well. So if you think this video was valuable in understanding behind the scenes here, drop one of those, it'd be much appreciated. So starting off here, we have a comment from a guy named Jack. Now I actually know Jack personally, and this is a really good question. He has asked, what are your core values? How have they been shaped by your life experiences, and how do they influence your approach toward investing? Now I think when you say core values, it is a very broad question, but where I would start is the primary goal, I think obviously, is to become the best version of yourself, to master life and what you deem to be important. So by doing that, I would obviously approach this in a way of going, okay, what matters to me and what doesn't? By identifying what matters to me, I can then therefore go, right, what can I do? What steps can I make to achieve or reach mastery in those respective areas? And in a way, I think of it as a wheel. You've got the spokes on a wheel. Those spokes individually are very important. You can't dedicate yourself to just one thing because you'll end up being lackluster in other areas. So realistically, you need to be well-rounded, but that's not to say you can't have a few core structural strengths in which you dominate the most. Now, there's obviously a general way of looking at this that every human being should aim to do. They should aim to maximize their health, be in great shape. They should perhaps look to increase sources of income and wealth, and perhaps look for a higher level of status, or let's say happiness in life, right? So there are core things there that you need to look for, and there's also more personal ones based on what you want to achieve in your lifestyle. So I think it's very, very critical in order to work towards something is to exactly picture what that end goal is in mind. So for me, I know exactly where I want to be in 40 odd years. I don't want to be working for someone else, and if anything, I'd like to be doing that a lot sooner. I'd like the freedom to get up when I want, to do what I want, and earn money in a way of something that I enjoy or, you know, find interesting. My curiosity is quite a big part of myself, and so by being curious, I'm always interested in learning new things that I think have a level of importance to myself. As I mentioned earlier, I've prioritized that above others. So this would be shaped by life experiences, and I think that truly is a very tough question. And a good life experience I might bring up in this one is when I traveled to Southeast Asia, specifically Thailand, I was seeing the work ethic of these people. And these were the people that were actually on the streets, right? And effectively, they didn't work hard as a choice. They weren't going, okay, I really need to ensure that I get this client, let's say, or I need to grab the attention of this person walking past. I need to make the sale because I want to buy more expensive things and, you know, get a new iPhone. No, it wasn't about that. At the end of the day, they were there hustling, doing some significant work, and I really very much respect the people that do that because they had to put food on the table for their family. And when you see that from another perspective, it's kind of at that point, I think I was about 19, 20 years old, snapped in my mind. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and do fuck all of my life. I'm going to create a purpose, and I'm going to follow what I think is that purpose. And that purpose is become the best version of yourself. And I think by doing so, you'll find happiness. And I think happiness is also very, very important to achieve. And I think, if anything, the most important thing to achieve in one's lifestyle. So what can you do that gives yourself happiness? Be selfish here, in my opinion. Be selfish with your goals and quite ruthless. What would achieve happiness? If achieving happiness for you is making a load of money and then donating all of it to charity, that's a very selfish notion, but in consequence, it's created opportunity. It's given, you know, let's say starving children a chance, which is brilliant about it, but you've done it for selfish needs. So it's all about really the pursuit of happiness. And how does this influence my approach to investing? Well, I try to focus further on the psychology of investing. I believe firmly that the mindset is truly key here, because you look at the average annual performance of investors, and the best one ranked, and I can't remember the time period nor the study, but effectively they'd gone the active trader, you know, the fund managers, how about the index funds, who had performed the best over time, or the category of investor. And it was a person that they didn't realize was actually dead until after the study had concluded, because that person had made minimal decisions. But human nature is to be buying and selling, seeing stock prices rise and fall, and emotion gets involved. So I strongly believe that by mastering your own psychology, having a thorough understanding of yourself, you can move forward. And that's exactly what I focused on. These last years or so, or this last year and a half, I have not focused on stock analysis. I've not been diving very deep into discounted cash flow models. I've been reading financial statements, but I've not been diving too deep into that, because this up here is what's key. This is what's going to end up making the money in the markets and in life. Therefore, focusing on this and understanding this will get you ahead, in my opinion. By knowing now that I'm able to take a drop of over 60% of my portfolio and remain comfortable because I prepared myself very well in life, and that I had emergency funds available, I had a good lifestyle, I had a very secure job and income, it meant I was able to take on additional risks. And now that I'd seen my wealth drop by that level, I'm confident that if it happened again, I would know how to deal with it, and I can survive and thrive. Obviously, the thriving bit is yet to be shown in my investing alone, because obviously my performance is still very much held back. Thank you, Jack. Brilliant question. The next one is from Sir Boborus. In reference to your old video discussing your future goals, do you feel you're on track so far? What have you done well since that video was posted, and which areas need improvement to reach these goals? Now, from memory, I can't quite remember what these goals were, and perhaps that's my downside here, because I didn't write them down, instead I recorded them, and in my mind that was good enough. But if I'm not referring to what those goals were originally, this is obviously a problem indeed. However, I'm going to assume here, and these goals were very much fixed on them, and it's very much finance related, so I have a feeling it is going to be that. In this regard, I'm pretty sure these goals were financial, and I think my goal was to achieve a £100,000 net worth by the end of 2023. Well, with 9 months left to go, I've actually got less than probably when I started that goal, and so I don't think it's realistic that I will reach that point. But even when I made this goal to achieve such a high net worth with a relatively low income and, let's say, low prospects, I did that in the idea that I needed to be disciplined and motivated to push, to work as hard as I possibly can to reach that. And I accepted, okay, I may not reach this target, but at least I could say, you know what, I worked my ass off for the last 3 years, sat down, did the work, and hey, can I complain at where I am now? Not really. I think I'm in a good position overall. I've certainly gotten ahead of where I was, but financially this isn't present at the moment. And what I've done in consequence is now valued experience. Experience in the short to medium term is key, so that I can be paid for what I know rather than what I do. I want to get beyond that what I can do step to what I know step, and then you get paid for who you are. And obviously that will take significant time indeed. So yes, that was one of my net worth goals. There was another one to reach 1 million by the end of 2029. Do I still think that's possible? Sure, but it's going to require a lot of luck, and truth be told, it's probably quite unrealistic to set such a goal. But again, the ambitious target here is what's going to fuel me and really motivate me towards an end, because 1 million is an end point. If I get that amount of money, I could, if needed, retire, live off of investments, and live in a poorer country such as Southeast Asia, as mentioned earlier, where I could live indefinitely off of dividend income. So at least I know that there is an escape exit there, or I've got enough terminal velocity to escape, which is saying enough money to do what I want, have the freedom to do whatever. But what is key here is we go back to the spokes of the wheel, mastering each of these individual spokes at great discipline. And you've said, what about the goals you have achieved? Like, do you feel that you're on track so far? Well, I'm in the best shape I have ever been. I'm currently about 77 kilograms. You might go, why have you told me that? Well, I started at 69 kilograms in October. And you might go, well, okay, you're great at gaining weight, and what? Well, I go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I do martial arts once a week. I'm very active. So basically, this keeps me pretty much in good shape. And I am, truth be told, in very, very good shape. I'm doing a lot of protein shakes now. I focus on health. I've got supplements, which you can't really see in the reflection of the mirror, but I've got supplements here, vitamin D, all of that, protein, all of that. I'm really looking to master now my diet and push forward. So in that regard, my health aspect, I think I'm doing very well for myself. Also, in terms of, let's say, confidence in my own abilities being perceived as greater from myself, I think I'm doing quite well for myself in that regard too. A good thing here is that some people face anxiety, or let's say a majority of people these days face anxiety. A good way of alleviating that is doing something that is perceived as risky, as dangerous, to overcome that fear. So this, obviously, a good example of this would be the motorcycle. I have a motorbike. By getting on that, you have to be constantly alert and aware, and obviously perceive the risk around you. If you make a wrong move, or if you take a risk that's unnecessary, you could end up getting seriously hurt. Now, there are small steps that you could do to reduce that risk. You could obviously wear full protective gear, which I now do. Or you could obviously not you get on a motorcycle in the first place, or you can adapt your environment, face the fear, and be a very, very safe rider and make very calculated decisions. But by doing that, by being exposed to that constant level of danger, it calms you down to all the other aspects of life that truly don't matter. Why get worked up and stressed about something being slightly late when at the end of the day you know that you've had a near-death experience, for example, and you can move on, you can push past it. Not to the point of being absolutely unmotivated because you were so close to death that you no longer care whatsoever. You've still got to care. So again, I'm not encouraging unnecessary risk here, but calculated risks can certainly make you stronger as a person. And I think that's a great goal to achieve in the whole aspect of becoming a better version of yourself. Thank you, Sir Boborus. I really enjoyed that question. That was a good one. The next one is by Matthew. Matthew said, do you still do any shifts at the pub you worked at? Also, could you give a brief description of your current job and if you're enjoying it or not? So yeah, this was a while back now when I first started the channel. It was during the furlough lockdown period where basically I was working in a pub, I got furloughed, and that's where the channel started because I had that initial oomph of energy to go, you know what, I'm sat here doing nothing. I just recently gone to Southeast Asia. I am motivated. I have got things to do. I want to achieve things. What can I do? And I was like, I've been wanting to do YouTube for the best part of 10 years. I've had multiple failed channels, and arguably this isn't successful, but it has done something, this channel here. And well, 6,000 views, you know what? That is a success on its own. I'm happy with that. 6,000 subscribers, I should say. And so, do I still do any shifts at the pub that I worked at? Yes, I do. Every single Saturday, pretty much without fail. I've done so for the last year and a half since I had left the pub. It's about a year and a half, nearly 2 years now since I'd fully left the pub. Every Saturday, pretty much without fail, with the exception of, let's say, a handful of events that in advance had gone, okay, I'm going to a festival, or it's a friend's birthday, or it's an important night out in the friendship group, therefore I've avoided it. But that's quite a rare occurrence, and that's probably one in every 2 or 3 months. So again, very committed to that. And the value I get from these pub shifts, again, is almost, it's grounding. I'm allowing myself to become grounded in the operations of a hospitality industry. By working in the pub, my problems that I encounter in that pub aren't really problems. Instead, I get to realize that, okay, I'm working in an office, which I'll get onto shortly. Okay, right, I might be stressed about this one thing in the office, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't impact you greatly in life. There is more to life than just working, and I think to truly experience that and understand that, you've got to work a lot to then go, hang on, I've worked a lot here. Now I need to really respect or take note of the other aspects of life to really feel fulfilled in life. So yes, I still do the shifts at the pub. I get some enjoyment out of it. It's certainly an escape as well because it means I don't have to be going out and drinking, which UK society pressures you to be drinking on a weekend. It means I can be there in that social atmosphere, you know, chat up a few girls, all of that within reason, obviously. Especially when you're working, you probably don't want to be doing that. But the idea is there. You get to chat to different people. That's the main thing. And it gets you keep your social skills up to date. So I still do it. I enjoy it and remain grounded in operations as well because I like to have that reminder that, hey, I'm working for £9, £10 an hour, serving pints, delivering food. I think that's critical, and I think that really keeps that mindset there and stops you from becoming big ego or, you know, having a large ego that impacts your own judgment to the point of hubris. But yes, also, could you give a brief description of your current job and if you're enjoying it or not? Well, I actually work in finance now, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I work pretty much as an analyst. My title is not so, although there is some restructuring going on at the moment, which means my title in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks is going to change, and therefore I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. But as my basic job role goes, I am an analyst by a majority of what I do. But what I did is when I joined, I had a very, very broad set of tasks. I joined initially as a temp. I didn't want to go back to the pub full time. So what I decided to do is work as hard as humanly possible, achieve as much, and continually ask for work. I've kept that mindset up as best as I can. I've obviously had to maintain expectations and I've had to be wise on how much work I accumulate, because I obviously don't want to be completely overwhelmed, but I do appreciate the challenge every now and again. But yeah, I push as hard as I can in that place, and that's how. So basically, by pushing extremely hard, after about 2 months, they kept giving me work and going, okay, look, we'd like you to do this, we'd like you to do that. And because I just kept asking, kept doing it as fast as sustainably possible and really pushing for high quality in that, they were like, okay, I think we like this individual, this person could be a good fit in our team, we'll offer them a full-time contract. And that's pretty much how I got a foothold into finance, especially considering I don't have any form of university degree either. And so perhaps in a way it was quite lucky, quite fortunate that I was in that position to get the opportunity. But when I got that opportunity, I took it and didn't let go effectively. So yeah, now I'm doing a lot of analysis, a lot of internal reporting. So I'm going and looking at, let's say, certain figures that are important to the company. This is a FTSE 250 company, by the way. And it might be, I work very much in operations finance. So it could be a case of, okay, this certain location, how's this performing? What about this certain product category? Is there anything we could do to improve that? But primarily I look at, okay, these regions, these area managers, okay, what can they do to improve? Let's look for some compliance here in certain reporting. So yeah, very much a broad analysis report, but I take pride in building very large spreadsheets now that I effectively automate to a point where I can build the report, take the initial upfront investment of, let's say, a handful of hours, maybe more, maybe a couple of days. But after that point, I get longer term savings through, let's say, improvement, marginal gains, right? This is what's beautiful about it, because I can build a report that might take that upfront cost. But if it saves me half an hour every single week, that adds up very quickly, and it means I can accumulate more workload. And if I can automate it to an even quicker level, then I am absolutely laughing, because there might be some people that are going, look, I'd love to be doing this, but I've got so much on my plate already. So if there's someone, let's say, that is on a higher pay than I am, or in third higher pay, I'd be like, look, I can take that task from you. You could be obviously doing something that is more important to the company, which I still think is very key. And that being an investor as well is also key. Understanding what it's to be a shareholder, you are more fixated on profits, and effectively you are more an owner of the company, even though you're not, you're an employee. But with that mindset, I think that's also very critical for career growth. But by doing that, as I say, if I can save someone else's time that has, let's say, a higher perceived value than I do, then that's great, because I can assimilate that workload, I can improve it, I can get it to go out faster. I do a lot of VBA macro work, meaning that a lot of my Excel spreadsheets are automated using some product, VLOOKUPs, index match, all of that sorts, and then designing it very well. So that's what I do as a work. And do I enjoy it? Definitely. I very much didn't think I would enjoy it when I originally left the pub, but the moment I sat on a computer, started doing spreadsheets, for some reason I could sit there for hours and just be extremely interested at it. It's like I can control my focus here. And it's also very, very interesting from a different perspective of going, wow, these people around here, they're very successful people. It's very interesting to be around it when you move from something like a pub, where you may have customers that you're not aware of that are successful, but to an office, we're like, wow, this is a high-flying individual here. What can be learned from them? So yeah, there's a lot there that I do enjoy about it, and that's what I'm currently doing. And I'm based pretty much in Watford. For information, that's pretty much where I'm based. I know I haven't really mentioned that much before on the channel. Another Matthew here, not the same one, has said, as a fellow trainee chartered accountant, would love to know how you're getting on with your studies. So as a quick update on that, I've got 15 exams to go. I've only done one of the 16. I'm currently on CIMA. I'm on BA2. For those of you that don't understand, it's the second of 16 exams. My first exam I passed with 88%, although I got delayed because there were some issues alongside the technology when I went to first do the exam, so I have been delayed behind. But I also will admit it's very difficult to sit down and actually dedicate the time towards doing the studies. I value the accountancy studies because it gives a greater understanding of business knowledge, and hand in hand it ties very well in with what I do at my work, as well as YouTube. I think it gives a great understanding for the YouTube content that I create, especially in the investing field, and that's inevitably a great win. But again, when we go to the spokes of the wheel, how high up on the list is it? If we've got health, getting in great shape, eating well, preparing good food, going to the gym regularly, doing martial arts, let's say working and focusing on your career, as well as also having a YouTube channel, it becomes very hard to put that as a priority. So at the moment, I'm very much focusing on the mindset. How do I deliver better content to the YouTube channel? Well, it's very likely by studying. By improving my knowledge, I'm able to talk on a greater depth in the investing field, and I think that would be more interesting, especially as the knowledge level increases. You can break it down in even more simple terms, and that again becomes more interesting. Same with career. I'm in finance, I'm in operational finance. It's very key there that obviously my knowledge is improved by doing studies alongside working in the workplace, and that increases my perceivable market value, especially if I'm a fully qualified or part qualified accountant. I also think it's very transferable across companies and also departments, because at the end of the day, you'd probably want to hire someone that has done their accountancy degree. And since I didn't have a university education to say, hey, look, this person's been working in a pub once a week, not as important, but still important, working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in an office in finance, doing their own YouTube channel, and hey, guess what? They've also managed to study on like an accountancy degree. We'd want to hire that individual. So that's really the key of it. I'm not doing that well in terms of progress because realistically, I think I pretty much got started about 7 months ago, but then I was never really academically that fixated or very good at academics because I had to, and I only realized that after school, that I had to understand the reason for why I'm doing something. I had to see the value in why I was doing it. And therefore, when I was doing something like chemistry or biology, which I did at A level, I wasn't interested because I was like, okay, great, I'm doing chemistry, but what does this chemical reaction have to do with my life? How can this make me money? And truth be told, it hasn't done that much other than drilling a way of studying, which again, I suppose so far isn't helping that much in terms of my CMA studies. But yeah, there's the update on the accountancy for you. Thanks for the question, Matthew. So Warren has asked here, did you ever participate in that housing venture you mentioned some time ago? I mentioned this briefly in the life update. I was trying to use brief and previously in the same word there. Effectively, I can't talk too much on it, especially because I am very much the minority person or the minority party in this transaction. Effectively, we're at a standstill for now, and we have been at this pause probably the last half a year. This is because one of the individuals of the triumvirate, if that's the right word, that's the Roman term, but let's say there's two individuals I work with, an architect and a landlord. One of those two individuals is waiting for funds to be no longer locked up. At the moment, they're locked up in investments, and they can't cash them out at the moment due to certain reasons and criteria. Individually, both of them don't have enough capital to start the project on their own. One of them, they both value the idea of working with another person because one has a lot of time, one doesn't, one has more capital, one doesn't obviously have that time. So there's the critical thing here. And the value I have here is that I could do a lot of the legwork. I'm happy to sit down and do as much as possible in the value of experience. And so, yeah, that's really all I can update you on the situation here. Hopefully, in the next few months, things should liven up. We have been chasing about this investment. There is a bit of a concern going on with, obviously, the locked up funds. So we have been pushing very hard to get through that. And we have certainly been doing research. People have been, if they're going, I've had comments before, oh, you're near Watford, that means property is quite expensive. It's probably not a great place to invest. And I must say, we're not looking at Watford or anywhere in the nearby area for property. We're looking at some very good value opportunities. But if I start diving into actually what types of property, what location, what we're trying to achieve with that, what kind of government grants we're looking at through the local councils, at that point, I think it really becomes quite revealing, and I think that loses the opportunity or the value in this. We are very aware that property rates are increasing, so obviously we're running the numbers in advance of even looking to get a property, but at the moment, as I say, we're at standstill here because, quite frankly, the money's locked up. There's no point really trying to go much further than that because if the funds aren't there, the funds aren't there. So that's a heads up for you. Weren't lying about it or anything, but it's just a very busy environment. And once those funds go, it'll be cracking on it, and that'll be my Sundays, really. That's my only technical day off, but that's pretty much what I'll be doing on those days. And we've also got a question from George. What does ChatGPT and AI mean for Boohoo and Games Workshop? I think this is a good question because AI and ChatGPT is big at the moment. It's very much a key word. Artificial intelligence has always been a bit of a buzzword, and I think at the moment it's very much overhyped, but it certainly has huge uses, especially in the creative field. If I wanted content ideas for a YouTube video, all I've got to do is ask ChatGPT, and it'll go, here's 10 video ideas on this niche. Here's what you could create. And all I need is the titles, and I could work back from there. It's a brilliant outlet. And especially when you have someone that knows how to effectively optimize the search outlet, like with Google, right? If you have an individual that knows how to Google, I Google all my problems. If I've got a problem with an Excel spreadsheet, I'll Google it and find the solution. I can learn very quickly from it. ChatGPT is almost a more streamlined way of doing so. Perhaps where you would struggle is where you need accuracies and historical data. But if you're on a creative outlet, this could certainly help you out. It could really jog your memory and be a very assisting tool. So when we talk about the likes of Boohoo, I think it's probably more of a disadvantage advantage for Boohoo, because it means that costs are reduced. You no longer need those designers, because you could have AI designing dresses and outfits based on popular items that have sold previously, the data that they would house in the company. So it would be even more fast fashion, but I think any company could do that, but I guess the advantage Boohoo has is their size. At least they've got more data to use if it's optimal. So again, yeah, they could use that, but really it's probably not a great thing for the industry in general, because if AIs are creating new designs like this, it basically makes a lot of the designs they've already created not as valuable, because an AI can keep chucking out new ideas they can keep testing. So it can work very well for Boohoo, but I think the competition also share that same advantage. So there's nothing really unique there. Games Workshop, however, I think is a little bit of a different story. They have such a wide moat due to their vast intellectual property. So with ChatGPT to create all of these stories and concepts, there's already so much, which could be a very positive thing for Games Workshop, because they already have such an in-depth universe of characters, worlds. It means that there could be more jogs in that creative outlet where we've got, okay, the AI has came up with a sort of scenario, something new, something different concept, and I'm sure they could harness it to look at the literature they have before to really come up with something new. And then you'd have these writers that were going through it, correcting it, really altering the story to be much more appealing. And realistically, then they could, dish out a lot more content if required. And I think that could be a very big bonus for the company in that regard. That said, sure, this also means that competition can also do well with a lot less. This moat that they have through their vast intellectual property, especially in the stories front, could easily be overtaken now by this AI resource, because this AI resource can create thousands of pages in a very short time that would have taken years to create working in the Black Library of Games Workshop. So there's advantages and disadvantages of ChatGPT and AI. I'm not fixated too much on it at the moment, but I am starting to use it as a resource on a more ad hoc basis to, especially with YouTube, help out a bit on the creative front. What topics can I focus on, etc. So that's key. I think there is a lot of value from it, but it's really how businesses are going to adapt to that. And to be fair, I imagine it's kind of like the whole internet boom. Do you use online websites? Well, clearly it's an advantage to have. So what you need to do, and especially in the career front that we've been talking about, I think having a key understanding of how to utilize this tool for maximum output and efficiencies is truly the most effective way that you could really use this tool. I don't think it will necessarily replace anything at the moment. As I say, if it improves efficiency, which is something that I strive for in what I do, then you're pretty much laughing. So I'd like to thank you for these questions, these 6 questions that were sent in. I think they were brilliant. We've had some really good questions. And even though we've had such a low volume of questions and ideas, I truly think here that we've had such a really deep level, and I think that I might not have necessarily gone to that level before on the channel. Now, I've tried to do this as best as I can in one take. I think there might be 1 or 2 clips or edits where I might have just skipped off a bit of a pause. That's it. So this is my idea here of trying to show that I'm being genuine. I'm trying to be transparent. And therefore, you can make your own decisions up based on what you hear from me. You might have gone, oh, actually, I quite like this dude, but after hearing his mindset and his outlook on life, chasing happiness, I don't want to watch his content anymore because his direction in his investment portfolio is different to what I want to achieve. And that's the brilliance of transparency, because you can look at that and go, okay, I can make an informed decision based on this person. I don't know this person online, but here's the information I've been given. Here's what I can do with it. And I think crucially, that's the most important thing at the moment. We need that value. We need to understand more about these online content creators, because at the end of the day, they could be anyone. They could lie to you like they're selling trading courses. You need to really identify this, and truth be told, I don't think many people do identify this at all. I'm probably going to be moving in the next few weeks, and my background's going to change. The background looks a lot better already, and I can't believe how I've fixed the room within a few weeks of leaving. It's typical, isn't it? But yeah, have a fantastic day.